Color out of space is cosmic horror in its most unnerving and least predictable form. It is not the horror of ghosts or monsters lurking in dark corners. It's an alien, incomprehensible creation of a presence completely indifferent to human life and one operating by its own rules. Adapted from the short story by H.P. Lovecraft, Richard Stanley draws on that sense of dread as he describes the extraterrestrial horror that no explanation can define. Scene change to strange colors illuminate the night sky as it shines upon a very quiet farmhouse. It tells the story of the Gardner family, who live on an isolated farm. When a meteorite crash lands in their front yard, strange things start to happen. A shimmering, otherworldly color begins to seep into their lives, some sort of unrecognizable hue to the human eye, with a life of its own. From the moment it appears, one cannot but feel that already the Gardner family loses, and that now their lives are caught in some very ancient and incomprehensible web of something they will fail to understand or survive. Scene: Nathan Gardner, Nicolas Cage, eyes agog in confusion, examines the glowing meteorite. The color itself is a character, some kind of alien presence that has a will but not a mind. While the monsters in traditional horror act with a purpose, this force doesn't care in the least about us. It just twists the very fabric of reality around it. Warped plants, animals, eventually the people themselves. That's just perfect for manifesting Lovecraftian horror, where fear comes from the utter indifference of the universe. It becomes even more pronounced as the color begins to leak into the environment, staining everything it touches. Flowers bloom in unnatural hues, animals distend into twisted mutations of their former selves, and time seems to distort. The various members of the Gardner family reacted differently to this, yet none of them were immune. To a large degree, this is a horror from within their minds, as much as from the world around them. Scene transition. Lavinia Gardner, Madeleine Arthur, reads from some sort of occult book. In desperation, Lavinia, the Gardner teenage daughter, looks for answers in mysticism, but in cosmic horror. To know isn't to solve, it's to be accursed, and the more she learns, the further she's dragged down into despair, coming to understand that her family's doom may be part of some bigger scheme beyond human comprehension. Scene: Hydrologist Ward Phillips, played by Elliot Knight, checks a water sample contaminated by the color. Meanwhile, Ward, a visiting hydrologist, tries to make sense of the contamination. He is the voice of reason and science against something beyond human conceptualization. But every attempt at naming the color, studying it, or somehow categorizing it ends in defeat. It's beyond human comprehension. It's something that came from outside the realm of earthly knowledge. Nathan's behavior becomes increasingly erratic as he succumbs to the color's influence. The effects of the color grow more profound and consume Nathan, warping his thoughts and body. His descent into madness is gradual, unstoppable. As Nathan becomes more reclusive, it gives way to the cosmic horror, becoming an affair that is more personal and psychological in nature. This is horror that feels vast and existential, yet it's happening within the intimate confines of a family home. The farmhouse is wrapped in bizarre, multicolored growths of vegetation. Storyteller. The Gardner farm distorts into an alien landscape, unrecognizable even to its occupants. Plants and animals once familiar now relentlessly become strange, taking on qualities that are almost out of order of biology. Their private environment now turns into a trap, the home into a surreal, otherworldly snare. Lavinia and her brother Benny are standing in horror, with the family's alpacas gathering in and morphing into one grotesque, mutated creature. That is where this transformation becomes the real, exemplary area of cosmic horror. The unknown isn't just something the gardeners experience, it is something that gets into them, physically and psychologically. The mutated creatures, born from the color's influence, disturb not because they threaten, but because they are images of nature violated, a denial of everything we consider normal or safe. Color reaches its peak, and the sky is aflame with violence, the climax of color. Out of space is real chaos, where the chain of reality breaks loose. The world of the Gardner family becomes surreal. All notions of time and space are undone. It's here that cosmic horror reaches its pinnacle, the realization of how utterly insignificant humankind is before such immense and uncontrollable forces. In the end, there is an explanation neither for its origin nor what its intention was. It just is. A reminder of how small and vulnerable we are in a universe full of mysteries which shall never be solved. The scene shows Ward helpless as the color engulfs the gardener's home, leaving nothing but silence. Narrator. Color out of space is cosmic dread that lingers long after the credits are over. The horror here is not of monsters or malice, but rather in a realization of the fact that we're all so helpless against things completely beyond our comprehension or control. This is a tragic comparative point, since in the grand scheme of things, we are fragile and transient beings at the mercy of a vast, uncaring universe. Closure. The scene fades to an uncanny silence, with the farm dissolving into color.